Hello and welcome to Sex in the News. We are the Siegel Brothers. Today we have a few stories for you. The first one we'll talk about has a headline, "If I am straight, then you are askew." We'll talk about how the federal court has upheld the block on in-person medication abortion requirements. And then finally, we will talk about an association between female sexual dysfunction and sexual dysfunction in the male partner. So, our first story is one that I particularly like.
You have been talking about this
I
forever,
really do.
for years and years.
This is one of my two soapboxes that I've had for many years. This one basically being again, the title here is "If I Am Straight, You Are Askew." I have been just calling this out for years. I can't tell you how vindicated I feel. And basically the issue is
academic
with
research to back
words
this up now.
that matter, right?
Yeah.
I have always taken issue with referring to heterosexual men as straight. And I even remember saying one time at an LGBT conference several years ago that I kind of stood up and outed myself as a heterosexual man, because all of these people were using that word straight.
And you were the closet heterosexual on the first ACT UP committee, right?
Well, it was the Stop AIDS Project.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was in 1988, I think, 89.
You had some pioneering days of your own there, Droog.
I got a few moments.
Yeah.
Right? But I've always taken issue with this reference to heterosexuals as straight, because the implication is very clear. If you're not straight, you are bent, twisted, or crooked in some way. And my vindication is now we have data. We have data to support what I have been saying all this time. And the results of this particular study...
Two studies.
Actually, you're right, two studies. This what we're reading from right here, was a meta-analysis that was published in the Journal of Sex Research. And these two separate studies very clearly show that heterosexual participants in general, but especially men, who were exposed to the label straight, reported more negative attitudes toward gay men than heterosexual participants exposed to the label heterosexual, or when they were not exposed to any label at all. In other words, the more we use that term straight to refer to heterosexuals, the more homonegativity there is.
Yeah.
And
actually, they're referencing 3 studies looking at this, and I like how they put this robust stream of research showing the detrimental influence of slurs and derogatory epithets on attitudes, especially toward sexual minority groups. It's important, and language is always in flux and always changing. And heterosexual has lots of syllables and is clunky, and in many circles now. The term homosexual is taken as derogatory or pejorative when people are offended. Well, who was it? One of those German Jews that started all this. I think it was Ivan Bloch who first used the term clinically. Homosexual, same-sex attracted. But it's become the new queer for some people. So... right?
Yeah, you ain't gonna please everybody.
Yeah, that alphabet soup. Remember another drum we.
That's my other.
Another drum we both like to bang. If no matter how many letters you want to add to the alphabet soup, all making valid points. The LGBTQIAGNC2C. I
don't know that they're valid points anymore, to be honest with you.
I just think, this is your point. It continues the othering.
Right.
If we don't have an H in there for heterosexuals.
Exactly.
Because if it's used as a teaching tool to point out the variety of sexual orientation and gender identities,
right,
then it has to include heterosexual, particularly since most people are, statistically speaking.
So especially those of you that like to point out microaggressions in other people, you need to check yourself with a lot of this stuff.
Another No, the sneeze coming on. Snowflake.
Yeah. So we really should not be using this term straight to refer to heterosexuals. And this alphabet soup, if you do believe in inclusion, then please be inclusive.
Yes,
And to your point,
yes.
as long as that H is left out of that alphabet soup, all you're doing is creating an ever-growing miscellaneous category. Other category.
All of
There's
those
heterosexuals and everybody else.
else.
And I submit that is beyond microaggression, and that is just plain disrespectful.
That's aggression.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do we have next?
This is good news from a federal court upholding a block on in-person medication abortion requirements, and particularly the COVID pandemic is what pushed this. That there was an attempt at making a rule saying that the drugs involved, the combination of drugs known as Mifeprex, the FDA-approved so-called medical, as compared to surgical abortion.
Right.
There was an attempt at making a law saying that this must be given under medical supervision. And we're talking about swallowing a pill. Right. And it's so dangerous and complex that it has to be done under medical supervision. It's actually two pills that a woman takes a couple of days apart. The first one affects progesterone, so the uterus doesn't get Mifeprex doesn't get. I'm sorry, you're right.
Right, it prevents the building up of the endometrial, the lining of the uterus, and really will prevent the pregnancy from,
But the other cause is uterine contractions, and essentially what an abortion is. When you sweep away all the politics and morality, the medical term, or a miscarriage rather, is a spontaneous abortion. Right. Just like when, we've all seen the rocket launch and the countdown, and then somebody discovers an O-ring out of place, and what do? They abort the launch. Right? Abortion just means stopping something that's started, and it has all this emotional baggage that, again, people are getting violent and going
Well,
crazy.
it's another one of those words that's been hijacked by a context.
Yeah. But anyway, this allows women the privacy and the dignity and the right to get a legally available prescription medication and take it in the privacy of her own home to induce a miscarriage.
Right. And what makes this most newsworthy and why we're bringing this back up is because when this judge first put a block on that, right? Because the Trump administration was trying to hold that you have to give it in person, because it's a weird language I think that the FDA has in prescribing this, where the FDA language says something about it has to be dispensed in a healthcare setting, but the patient can take it anywhere they want.
Right.
So they were really trying to use this, especially during COVID, to pretty much block women's access to reproductive health care.
Just like they've been trying to block access to birth control and Plan B.
Plan B, all of that stuff, absolutely. And the Trump administration actually appealed that block on the basis of Corona has gotten so much better, it's so not a problem anymore that we should let these laws stand. And I just have to quote from the judge in this particular case, because this judge, Theodore Chang, who was the federal judge that ruled on this, addressed the worsening pandemic in his order this past Wednesday. He said, the evidence establishes that since the court granted the prior block on July 13th, 2020, this health risk has only gotten worse, where abortion patients in the United States are disproportionately low income and women of color. The ongoing health risks from exposure to COVID-19 are even more pronounced. And then followed with a great statement by Julia Kay, who is a staff attorney with the ACLU's Reproductive Freedom Project, who called the Trump administration's assertions on COVID, quote, violently out of touch with reality.
Nice.
She then went on to say the Trump administration's claim that COVID-19 is no longer a serious threat would be laughable if it wasn't so cruel. It's past time the outgoing administration accept defeat and the FDA turn its attention to a long overdue comprehensive review of its unnecessary and harmful restrictions on this safe medication used for abortion and miscarriage care.
Brava.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. And we have one more story
Yes.
that might need a little further discussion. Let's just introduce this. This is important. It's a little nerdy, a little sexology, but a study pointing out an association between female sexual dysfunction and sexual dysfunction in the male partner. So it's, again, one of these meta-analyses, which, if you're not a research nerd, is basically research on the research. Every field, they're publishing journals and articles accumulate. Every once in a while you have to stop and take a look back and study all of the accumulated research, whether it was the last 10 years, the last 50 years, whatever this case
And
may
they
be.
went through, I think, 8,000 individual studies.
Yes.
Right? And what did they find? Again, not really a surprise, but an important thing for people to be aware of and to kind of normalize. That if a woman, as part of a heterosexual couple, is experiencing some kind of female sexual dysfunction, then the rate of dysfunction in the male partner goes up significantly.
Right. But see, I talk about this a lot with couples in therapy, and difficult as it may be, it's a good thing. More often than not, it means that a guy cares, right? If a woman is experiencing sexual pain and the guy has erectile dysfunction as a result of that, that means he cares. He doesn't want to hurt his partner. So for couples who are experiencing problems in the bedroom, that's how it usually presents, we're having intimacy issues, right? This can, as you said, this can really be a helpful starting place to point out that just because, we always talk about de-emphasizing the performance, but just because this is happening doesn't always mean that it's a bad thing, doesn't mean that you have a mental illness or a sexual disease or disorder. It could just be kind of a sign, a symptom, and it can help with creativity. It can help with being a more other-centered lover, which always is good advice. And yeah, it's important to know that sexual dysfunction often, you have a primary dysfunction in one partner that leads to a secondary dysfunction in the other, and it could even go back and forth like a ping pong thing.
Sure.
Which is why so often sex therapists see this with men and women alike. Very often come in with this idea that I have this problem and I have to fix it or my partner's going to leave me. And I always push for treating it like a couples issue. And if they resist, I say, has your partner noticed this problem? And of course, everybody says, yeah. Is your partner affected by this problem? And people say, yeah. So I say, that's it. It's a couple's problem.
Exactly.
And we have a better chance of fixing it as a couple than you adding more pressure to yourself, more anxiety, thinking that it's do or die, that the fate of this relationship depends on you getting over this anxiety-induced dysfunction with more anxiety.
Right. And how many people end up blaming the partner, but specifically guys blaming the woman for her problem. Look what you're doing to me now.
Yeah.
So I really like that framing that you just said. I would like to hear more people talk about that.
To see this stuff being done.
That sort of secondary dysfunction in the male is really kind of a sign of empathy.
Yeah, very often it is.
Yeah.
It's not I talk guys out of feeling like they're broken or a failure.
Yeah, that's really such a good piece to work with, and but a much better and healthier starting place, I think, for that couple. We often complain there's not enough consistency in the world. Well, we're getting some.
Some things are consistent.
Right. So, and again, our Poetic Justice, which is our chance to call out hypocrisy when we see it, especially as it relates to sex and sexuality. And we have a repeat winner.
Well, no, this is a different
Well, this
one.
is a specific guy, but part of
politician.
the same group.
The same theme. right?
Same
and
theme,
you
same
all,
group.
You all know, unless you're living under a rock or in a cave somewhere, that QAnon, the nation's favorite conspiracy theory, which is
Baseless conspiracy
growing
theory.
and actually involving now people running and being elected to Congress, is based on this premise that there's this evil cabal of Democratic politicians, liberals, and celebrities in Hollywood that run pedophile rings. They come up through the sewers and grab kids and have sex with them and drink their blood, et cetera, right? So we called out one of the founders who, since they're all about this war against pedophilia, one of the founders was busted with child porn. And now this week we have another, fortunately failed candidate,
Yes.
but someone who ran for elected office as a QAnon Republican.
In Louisiana. All right, and we'll start with the headline of this particular article. QAnon Republican candidate arrested and charged with possession of child pornography.
Again.
Yes, absolutely.
Remember the Freudian ego defense mechanism known as reaction formation.
It's my favorite one.
Right?
My favorite. Talk about hiding in plain sight.
Methinks the lady doth protest too much.
So this Republican QAnon conspiracy theorist who ran as a congressional candidate in Louisiana and fortunately lost handily, Ben Gibson, was just pulled into custody on Wednesday and charged with 4 counts of possession of child pornography, including juveniles under the age of 13. Now, again, I think it's worth repeating that one of the basic platform statements of these QAnon people is that Democrats are all about child porn and doing this horrible stuff, even though they still like Alexander Acosta and this guy that's leaving hopefully soon the White House, who really, again, friends with Jeffrey Epstein. There's all kinds of pedophiles that have been sort of orbiting in their universe, yet they seem to overlook a lot of that kind of stuff. So I think it really just goes to show that, you know, QAnon especially, but I'm also going to include these Proud Boys and these the 3%ers,
the incels,
which are now part of all of these white supremacist, thinking they're freedom fighters, misogynist militia people, anti-maskers. It's all of this large group of these disparate groups. It just goes to show that they do not believe in anything. I don't care what you may hear them say when the cameras are on, but they don't believe in anything. They don't have a philosophy. All they want is chaos. All they want is destruction. And we see these examples time and time again. There is no integrity. There is absolutely nothing redeeming about what these people claim to stand for. So, Ben Gibson and your QAnon brethren, we're going to include you all in this. For this week, we salute you for our poetic justice. Right?
That'll do it for this week's Sex in the News. We are the Siegel Brothers.